Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Today I have a very special treat. I have Alex from Star Wars Explained, the scruffy-looking nerf herder himself. Hello, Alex.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you so much for being on the show today.
No problem. I'm excited to be here. Always enjoyed working with you back last year. We did a Star Wars versus Star Trek video, so yeah, but I mean, it was fun to work with you, so when you reached out to me, I was happy to do it again.
Totally. So the reason for this video is to sort of look at the future of Star Wars, because I'm sure you've noticed, Alex, and so have I, that since the release of Rogue One, there has been a bit of a disturbance in the Force amongst Star Wars fans. There's been the people, such as myself, who had certain issues with The Force Awakens, who loved Rogue One, and yet on the other hand, it seems that those who have issues with Rogue One seem to really like Force Awakens, and I think this really speaks a lot as to which way the Star Wars universe might proceed in the future. So, first things first, which movie did you enjoy more?
I fall into the camp of I liked The Force Awakens more.
Yes.
Yeah, I did really like Rogue One, but I just connected more with the characters of The Force Awakens. I really fell in love with Finn and Poe especially, so I just didn't have that same connection with Rogue One, but still a great movie that I really enjoyed. I'm going to see it for my third time tomorrow, so...
Totally. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we both enjoyed both movies. I definitely did enjoy Rogue One more than The Force, and a lot of things that I kind of complained about in Force Awakens, I kind of gave a pass for Rogue One more, because I was like, it literally overlaps with A New Hope, whereas Force Awakens, it doesn't overlap with A New Hope or any of the original trilogy. There's like a time gap there. But on the other hand, it was trying to pick up the torch and carry with a new generation, so it was necessary to connect back to that. But it does occur to me, back in the day, in the original Star Wars trilogy, there was a producer called Gary Kurtz that I'm sure you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. And Gary Kurtz said that he worked on A New Hope and he worked on Empire Strikes Back, and he said the different response from the audience from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, looking at Rogue One to Force Awakens, they kind of mirror each other.
It would have been probably less out-and-out heavy-duty action and a little more character developed. That's true. And for those who liked that in Empire, that's what they wanted to see. But for those who liked the original Star Wars, they liked the way Jedi turned out. So that you're always going to get that argument between those groups of fans.
Do you think because Rogue One was set out to be a test for this whole idea of an anthology movie, do you think we will get more anthology movies along this darker tone?
I definitely, we know they're going to do a Han Solo movie, and they're talking about after Episode 9, it might only be anthology movies. So as far as the tone goes, though, I think what they want is for the anthology movies to be, like, all of them can technically be experiments. I think, I have no information here, like, except for my own conjecture, but I think that the Han Solo movie is probably gonna be a comedy or an action comedy like Rush Hour or something.
Yeah.
Just knowing the directors and being very familiar with their work, like the 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, I'm expecting something probably a little like a step back from that, not that goofy, but yeah. I'm expecting it to be very lighthearted and comedic. So I think just in general, they're all going to be experimental. In terms of tone, like I do see what you're saying with the trilogy, the saga films in general being more lighthearted and fun. But I think they're all kind of going to mix and match. I think Episode 8 is going to be darker. I mean, they keep comparing it to Empire Strikes Back, but I don't think they're going to just specifically do darker tone films. I think they're going to keep mixing it up and just seeing what works, because it's Star Wars and it's a pretty low risk move. Like, they can do pretty much anything and it'll still make money.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And I think also something that this new sort of universe of Star Wars movies has over the original trilogy, because there was that mix of tones from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they kind of tried to mix them to give like both sides of the fan base something that they wanted, with the more serious stuff with like Luke and Vader and the Emperor, but then the more lighthearted stuff with Han and Leia and C-3PO and all that with all the Ewoks. But they don't necessarily have to do that with this new format, because if there is there's this split amongst the fans, they can just keep the anthology movies as more of the serious, gritty stuff, and they can keep the main trilogy as being more happy. So it's really sort of uncharted territory for Star Wars, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that we might come to like a split in fans where, like, me personally right now, I'm like so pumped for episode 8. Like, I'm ready to talk about that, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that loved Rogue One so much that they'll be excited for episode 8, but they might be looking forward to the next anthology movie, and they want to see what new stuff they do in Star Wars that hasn't ever been done before.
Do you think it's possible we'll get to Star Wars Burnout?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm someone that, I am literally living and breathing Star Wars, like every book, every comic, and every time I'm like, oh, that comic was sick. Like, here's what I loved about that book. I've been doing it nonstop for 2 years for the channel, and I'm still excited for every new book. So if Marvel can crank out 2 to 3 movies a year, I think Star Wars doing 1 a year is totally fine.
Yeah. I think if we were going to reach Star Wars Burnout, we would have reached it by now. I mean, the franchise has been around long enough. There's like, just in Rogue One alone, there's that one bit where when they break Jyn Erso out of that sort of prison tank thing, and there's just these like 2 stormtroopers there, and they're covered in dirt and all that. Just from that one like 30-second scene of those guys, I was like, I'd really like to see a Death Trooper storyline of just these stormtroopers and what their life is like.
Yeah, I mean, the people have been kind of clamoring for an Imperial-based episode of Star Wars Rebels. And the new canon in general has done a really good job of showing things from the Empire's point of view and showing that they're not all just like the faceless, straight evil guys that the films portray them to be. So I like that they are approaching it from a new angle with this new canon.
I totally agree. I think that's an untapped resource for Star Wars so far, because like in Rogue One we did get to see a bit of like the Imperial officers side of things, and we've seen a bit of that before, but I'd really like to see a movie of like the Sith training and what like the Sith school is, because we've never really seen that.
Yeah, definitely not in the films.
So Rogue One, in terms of like what they were projecting with the box office and what it did on the first week, maybe the numbers have changed since I last looked at it, but it does seem to be underperforming slightly. Now, do you think maybe that's because the uninitiated of the Star Wars are a little bit confused because they're like, why is Darth Vader there if it's The Force Awakens? And a lot of people think it's a sequel to Force Awakens. Or do you think it's just because all the people who were butthurt over Force Awakens didn't bother to show up?
I think it's likely more, and this is just me guessing, I'm no box office analyst.
None of us
I
are.
think that it's probably, I think it's just confusion probably that people are seeing these new trailers and they're like, where, especially new fans that probably just came on from Force Awakens, they're probably like, where's Rey, where's Finn, where's Kylo, what's happening? I was shocked, really, that they didn't have a crawl. Like, me personally, it didn't affect me that much, but I thought that if any movie needed a crawl to set up the context for this film, it would be Rogue One. And that, like, there's crawls in all of the comics. I think there's crawls in most of the books, at least. And to not have one in the film, to be like, hey, this is when this movie takes place, like, it's definitely not episode 8. I thought that would have solved some problems, but what do I know? I guess they know best. They're
Well, no, like
they're the ones with the $1 billion franchise.
Well, when I saw Rogue One the second time, because I saw it on opening night, and then I saw it again on the weekend with a group of friends, and I told all my friends going in, I was like, okay, this is set right before A New Hope, they're stealing the plans of Death Star, there's no opening scroll. But despite all of that, despite me telling all of them, when the movie starts, they're all like, waiting for that big hit of the Star Wars logo, and it just doesn't happen. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh. And then Tarkin shows up, and they're like, who's that guy? And I'm like, I told you, it's Grand Moff Tarkin. They're like, oh, that guy, yeah. So hopefully now that idea of anthology movies is kind of stuck in their head, it will carry from there.
I'm really interested to see what they announce after the Han Solo movie, because at one point a Boba Fett film was in production, but I kind of hope that they go, I want to see more Rogue One type movies where they're like following a brand new group of characters, but maybe in a familiar situation, or even just like go off the rails and do something from the Old Republic. Like, I want to see something just totally out there, but it would be a hard sell to the more casual audience.
So you mentioned Boba Fett. You're not that keen on a Boba Fett movie?
I kind of hope they stay away from, like, I'm going to see a Boba Fett movie if they make one, but I would like them to stay away from just like, now it's a Boba Fett movie, now, like, all of these examples I would absolutely watch, but like, if they say we're doing the Boba Fett movie and then the Obi-Wan movie and then the Yoda movie, like, something like Rogue One would excite me more, where it's like, I don't know these characters, I don't even know the scenario completely, just something new, but something that I don't know that they could build a full film around this, but something that I've, ever since I read it, it was in Lost Stars. It like jumped into my brain and it stayed there, and I want to see it. There's a scene in Lost Stars where a group of just rebel soldiers are trying to steal a Star Destroyer, and they have to enter it and they have to attack certain systems in a specific order. So like, first they need to shut down the self-destruct so the Imperials don't just blow up the ship. Then they need to shut down the engines, and then they need to shut down like one of the reactors. Like, they need to make the ship just dead in the air, so then more boarding parties can come and they can fight over the ship and eventually take it. That to me sounds, I mean, really it's like a video game, but it reminded me of the movie The Raid, and I would love to see something like that where this team has to go in, fight from system to system and hold it, and like people are getting picked off along the way. Something like that I think would be amazing.
Okay, so it's that time again, guys, where we vote for the video for next week. A while back, you guys said you wanted me to start doing mega reviews of the Spider-Man movies and the lead up to Spider-Man Homecoming. So in next week's video, since I've done the first movie, I could do Spider-Man 2, if that's what you guys want. But we've also got Alien Covenant coming out around about the same time as Spider-Man Homecoming, so I could start doing some mega reviews of the Alien franchise as well. That way we can kind of mix it up between one franchise and another, just for some variety and stuff like that. So vote for which video you'd like me to do next week, and the iCard to vote for this is the poll in the top right corner right here. So just click on that, it works on mobiles and iPads and stuff as well. And whichever one gets the most amount of votes, that's the video I'll do next Friday. Okay, back to it. So, final question. What do you think is going to happen in episode 8?
In episode 8, in episode 8, I am expecting we're going to see Rey with Luke. Like, I'm expecting just new team-ups of characters. So we'll have Rey and Luke as one storyline, and they'll probably be dealing with Kylo and maybe the Knights of Ren. And I suppose they've got Chewie and R2 with them as well. I think we're going to see Finn and Poe be the other main storyline, and hopefully we get a lot more bromance from them, because that was like my favorite relationship in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I expect they're going to be dealing with the more military side of things. Just the First Order kind of everyday fighters, and then we're going to have Luke and Rey dealing with kind of the upper echelon, the people with superpowers. I think we're also going to see a lot more politics. We're going to get into the New Republic a little more, or what's left of it.
That's
because,
what I wanted. I wanted more space politics.
Well, they
Can't
said
believe
that,
I'm saying it, but I actually did want more space politics. Because you read the Aftermath books, didn't you? And there was a lot more politics in that.
Yeah, especially from the Imperial side. But Bloodline has a ton of politics in it, and it's 6 years before The Force Awakens, and they're saying that it's going to tie into Episode 8, and that it's the politics that tie in. So I think what we're going to be doing is probably rooting out New Republic First Order spies and trying to find out, of the people that are left in the New Republic, who's good and who's bad. That's kind of what I'm expecting for episode 8.
It's definitely exciting to see all the possibilities, and like Trey on my podcast mentioned, a couple of years ago we were just happy to get Force Awakens, so it's kind of like we're the spoiled kid now, complaining about what we get and what we don't get. Really, we should just be happy. It's like an absolute banquet of Star Wars now. The fact that we can even pick and choose is amazing. So
yeah.
Cool, so thanks for joining us, Alex. If people want to check out Alex's channel, Star Wars Explained, which you definitely should, anything you've ever had any questions about with Star Wars, you will absolutely find on Alex's channel. Click on the card you see on the screen right here, and until next time, we will see you guys in the comments.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Bandit.